Hi, welcome to Truth with Tal and Isaac. I'm Tal. This is Isaac. This is episode number 11, which is a bonus pod just on the Matt Stafford rumors and the Matt Stafford trade that just came out in the last 24 hours. How did we find out?
So last night, we finished up dinner, clearing the table, turn on our radio that we still have in the kitchen because we're really old school. And we turn on the radio and it's only 97.1. Like, I don't know if that's been changed in 20 years. So turn on 97.1.
I do have the ability to change it to AM. I just don't do it very often.
But I can't remember the last time we did.
Yeah.
So we turn on 97.1 and then they say, breaking news about the Lions. And I assume it's about Aaron Glenn, the guy they signed as defense coordinator, or Anthony Lynn, because those were kind of rumors that we heard about. And then they say
Matt Stafford. There's been four huge things in the last week, and then Stafford was number 5th. And actually, I think of those 5 things, Stafford, that's the biggest deal.
100%. Yeah, so they say Stafford's out. We go nuts, run to our phones because we didn't have our phones on us. My mom, his wife, starts freaking out because we're just screaming. Like, we have no idea what's going on. Because we instantly thought, like, he was traded.
Yeah.
Because all we heard was Stafford's out in Detroit.
Yeah, the Stafford trade.
Yeah, so then we look and...
we're jumping to conclusions. Yeah. We're like, oh my gosh, Dallas, did he go home? San Francisco, Indianapolis, and we'll list the teams later on. But it was about 60 seconds of old school craziness with lots of yelling. I would say, I was excited personally because I think this is a good thing long term, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. I was excited. Trades are exciting.
Trades are excited. People are talking about the Lions, which is good. And again, we'll talk about this in a couple minutes. I love this for both parties, Stafford and the Lions. But first, we'll just talk a bit about Stafford.
Yeah, awesome real quick, just say, provide feedback. We did have a couple of our callers reach out to us. A couple of our followers reach out to us and say, hey, where's the bonus podcast on Stafford? So this is actually Sunday morning just prior to the championship games. Follow us on Instagram, The Truth with T&I. There's 4 ways that you can watch or listen to us. YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube, or comment on Google, Apple, or Spotify.
Yeah, good enough. Yeah, leave a review if you can.
Leave a review.
Really get the tech stuff. It's okay.
Yeah, send the text to him.
Yeah.
Okay, talk about Stafford.
So
number 1 pick in the draft.
Number 1 pick in the draft. First couple of years had some injury issues, right? The name Glassford was thrown around for a couple years. But I think pretty quickly, Detroit, the fan base, really fell in love with Stafford. Like, I think after that first couple of years, and the Lions sucked at this time, right? Like, they got him because they were 0-16 the year before.
0-16.
So they get Stafford thrown into a terrible situation, right? Like, as worse a situation as you can be in. And, like, Deshaun Watson, you think you're in a sucky situation? Like, 0-16, dude. So they get Stafford. And pretty quickly, everyone fell in love with him. And, they've had him for over a decade, right? It was 2009, I think.
Yeah, lots of great comebacks. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into it now, but that clip against Cleveland is just legendary. They were down 6. It was the last play of the game. Stafford's rolling out, scrambling, just about got tackled. Gets rid of it. It was a defensive pass interference. And as soon as he lets the ball go, he just got killed.
Yeah.
I don't know. And he was mic'd up. So, he was moaning and rolling in pain. And the Lions had no timeouts left. So then they helped Stafford to the sideline. He can't even move his left arm.
He was out of it, yeah.
But because Cleveland had called a timeout, Stafford's like, wait, I can get in. I can get the F off me. Help me up. So they help him up. So he goes in for an untimed play and throws a touchdown pass. And if you haven't seen it, even if you have, just watch it again. I'm sure a lot of people have watched it in the last 20 hours because of the Stafford trade rumors. But Detroit's a blue-collar city, and they just want somebody who's tough, right? That's why they embrace the bad boys so much. And I really think Stafford's legacy in Detroit will be a great one. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, people are going to look back and say, oh, man, he was so good. I wish we, could support him. He's never had a 1,000-yard rusher. He's never... No, sorry. 1 year he had a top 10 defense, and that year they went 11-5.
Was that the Dallas year?
I don't know.
It might have... I'm trying to think. Who is his best running back? Was it Java Best?
Probably Javid Best
or
before
maybe
concussion.
Reggie Bush. He had that one good year.
Reggie Bush, yeah, he had some guys who they were either at the tail end of their career, AP.
And now we
Reggie
actually have
Bush.
a running back who might hang out.
Now we have Swift, who's good, but listen, there's just. I mean, let's talk about the rebuild now.
Yeah.
So obviously, all 4 Detroit teams have fully vested in a rebuild. I think there were some Lions fans who kind of held out hope. Oh, listen, if we hold on to Stafford and we sign Kenny Galladay and we get a defensive beast like a Micah Parsons or something in the first round, we'll be right there. No, we won't. We'll be 7-9, and we'll just miss the playoffs, and they'll tantalize us, and they'll just be awful. Just admit it. Like next year, Mike Ogley was texting me yesterday. The over/under on Lions wins is probably 3.5, depending on who they end up getting as a quarterback.
Yeah.
They've got so many holes. So it's a rebuild. Talk a little bit about Stafford, and then we'll talk about a little more about the rebuild and all the other stuff that happened this week.
So what we'll do is we'll talk about like Stafford and Lions, the two parties involved, good or bad for both teams. We'll talk a couple locations where he could go. Adam Schefter reported, I think he said a third of the league is going to at least make a run at him. There's a lot of teams that either desperately need a quarterback that like are playoff teams. Like Indianapolis, I think their starter right now is Jacoby Brissett, who might even be a free agent. So they don't like teams like that. Washington doesn't really have a quarterback. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we'll talk about what did the Lions do? What can they get for him? What do they do in the draft, right? Like the draft this year is super interesting for Lions fans because usually it's, best player available, BPA. But this year it's you need a quarterback in the first round, I think. I don't want to wait for a guy like Trask. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So good or bad for both parties? I think it's great for both of them.
I really want this to be a triple win situation. A win for the Lions because they embrace the fact that they're going to rebuild. Unless you're like the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Lakers, you have to go through rebuilding times. And the problem with the Lions is they've held on. Oh, we're just about there. No, you're not. I would rather just suck for the next 2 or 3 years. It's easier for real fans to get tickets because the corporate dudes will be like, oh, we'll just give away tickets. And I like the excitement of a rebuild and young guys that are coming up. So Lions are going to suck for the next 2 or 3 years.
Fine.
I would say fine.
Yeah, we're used to that by now.
Yeah. No, like the 6-10, 7-9, 8-8.
No, the Lions,
tired of that.
Yeah, the Lions need to accept the rebuild, which it looks like they are doing.
Yeah.
Campbell, I do want to touch on Campbell and Lynn a little bit later, but 6 years they signed Dan Campbell too. It shows a couple things that they're totally sold on Campbell. Like he had some pretty high value in the market, and 6 years they're showing they're committing to him fully, and whatever he not wants but envisions in a couple years, they're on board. So they're accepting the rebuild, which is where we're going with Stafford being gone. I think Galladay is probably out as well. He's awesome, but he's going to want a lot of money.
$18 million on a guy who's going to miss 5 games, who's maybe going to bring you from 3 wins to 4 wins, or if he has a couple of spectacular games, to 5 wins. I think you let him go.
I'd rather see Galladay go to a contender, or even not a contender, like a team like New England.
Oh my God, New England needs receivers.
A team who needs a wide receiver like that.
Yep.
I would like to see him go there. So Stafford has given everything to Detroit, to the fan base. He's 33 in a couple of weeks. I have a number for how many good years he has left. Do you?
I've got 4 really good years and 2 pretty decent years.
So I put down 3 really good years for sure. Like 3 minimum, I think. And, he doesn't really rely on his legs. I actually wish he did a little bit more. I think sometimes he could have rolled out and picked up 6 yards or whatever. But his legs aren't huge. His arm is why he's as good as he
makes throws that nobody else in the NFL can make.
I disagree with that. I love Stafford, but
you know what? Line all the dudes up and have him chuck the ball. I think Stafford wins.
Maybe. Mahomes got a pretty good arm.
Mahomes can chuck it too. Josh Allen can chuck it, but I'll put my money on the old guy, the beat up guy. Now, injury is not going to stuff from goals. Okay, so what the Lions going to get for Stafford?
I don't think they get 2 firsts, but I think you can get a first and a second. I do, and it really depends with because the first round pick can be
So
third
what is
overall.
Indianapolis? 20.
Indy, I think, is 21.
So I think if you trade with Indy, I think you get their first this year and their first next year.
I'd be cool with that for sure.
But
yeah.
Who else is in there, and what are they at? Washington.
Yeah. So we'll talk about some teams now, I guess. Colts are like the ideal one. Good for Stafford, I think. Like, they have a really solid O-line. They've got a great defense. Wide receivers ain't great. They've got a couple of young guys, but running backs, solid. So Indy works. They've got the cap. I think that's a real possibility. The Patriots is another option, I think. Look, the issue with the Patriots is weapons. They're picking 15th overall. They can either pick a receiver there or trade up and get a guy like Smith or Chase or one of those guys, Jalen Waddle, and a trade for a guy, right? If Julio is going on the market, what's going to stop Belichick from going all in to try to get Julio?
Yeah. So AJ Green?
Maybe that's a big cap hit for a guy who really hasn't produced in a couple years. The
Niners. I agree with you. So Colts would be number one pick. Niners
is another team. They need a quarterback. Like, I don't think Garoppolo's their long-term option.
Jimmy G is not the dude.
And it's basically like whoever can't get Deshaun Watson is going to go hard at Stafford, I think. So the Niners need a quarterback. People forget they made it to the Super Bowl last year. Like, they have a really good roster. Their defense is one of the best in football. They've got good receivers. They've got good running backs.
Maybe the best tight end in football or second best tight end in football.
Yeah, like top 2 tight end in football with Kittle. Yep. So the Niners is an option. This one, initially I wasn't sold on, but the more I thought about it, he brought it up to me, was Washington. I think Washington is a shot, right? They're a good young team, and they don't have a quarterback.
Best defensive front in football.
Yeah,
Isaac's a good receiver. What's the running back? Gibson?
McKissick?
Yeah, okay.
Who's a running back?
Well, one of Gibson and McKissick. I don't know where they are.
J.D. McKissick played for the Lions, right? A couple years ago.
Really?
I thought he did as a receiver.
Okay.
But Terry McLaurin is the receiver in Washington.
Oh, yeah, that's the dude.
Who is awesome. Like, the only people that know he's awesome had him on fantasy. I want him to get a quarterback.
Do you have him on your team?
Yeah.
Okay.
He hasn't had a quarterback in his career. And getting a guy like Stafford there would be cool. The cap works. So Washington is an option. And the Dolphins are an interesting one. There's a lot of talk about Watson going there and Tua leaving. Tua played less than a year with very little help. So I think you give Tua a little bit of time. So I don't think they go for Watson or Stafford. I hope they don't.
You know what? I can't see Miami trading for Stafford.
I just, like, it works.
That's a lot of money in your quarterbacks.
But I want them to stick with Tua. I like Tua a lot. And actually, last year, we were both pushing for Tua at third overall. Especially, I really wanted them to get Tua rather than Okuda, but we're not going to bash on Okuda this episode.
Okuda's great at tackling, because you know
after
why?
He leaves the guy open.
Yeah, after he leaves the guys 12 yards of cushion.
He can wrap him up really good, but he just can't defend the pass. So a couple other teams throw out there. The Texans, right? Looks like Watson is out, and I'm not saying that Watson's going to go to the Lions. Let's not get our hopes up, but they send Watson off to, I don't know, San Francisco or something, or the Jets. Then they don't have a quarterback, and they try to make a run at Stafford maybe. Mm-hmm. The Broncos, I heard a little bit. I don't buy that. I don't think that'll happen. Who knows? Like, it totally might. But I wouldn't put my money on it. The Steelers.
Listen, think about John Elway, who's pulling... Because I'm the one who mentioned Washington and Denver. John Elway wants a big-armed quarterback who can win. And Locke, is that his name? Yeah. He's trash. Like, I've watched him a couple times. He's trash. Okay. Elway's going to say... I want Matt Stafford, and he's somebody who's willing to take a risk. Now, where does Denver pick this year? Somewhere
no idea.
In the teens, I think maybe. I think he'll trade this year's first. I would accept a mid first and a second.
Yeah, I would too. I'd be happy with that.
They need guys. They
I would
need
rather
guys
get
on offense and defense, and I know the Lions historically have not. Drafted well, but they're now their general manager. He's a college drafting guy. That's his skill set. So I think they're going to try and dump guys. I see them dumping whoever they can over the next year. Right? Maybe they sign Marvin Jones again, but then trade him at the trade deadline, just like they did with Golden Tate a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. I do think they signed Romeo Okora because he had a good year.
I agree.
And I think they use money on some defensive guys because they do not have a lot of defensive dudes to build from.
One more team I want to throw out there.
Yeah.
Well, there's two. They're super unlikely. I want to see them in New Orleans. Now, if New Orleans wasn't in such a bad cap situation, they would really go at Stafford, and they would be a Super Bowl contender. Because they are right now with Drew Brees, who really, towards the later half of this year, had trouble throwing the ball deep down the field. And getting a guy like Stafford to stretch the field would be sick, but it's not going to happen. And who knows what the Steelers are going to do. Their quarterback situation's really up in the air. But that's another team. So those are some teams that might work. I think Indy is the best chance, though.
Okay. I want to talk about Sheila for a minute or two. So, listen.
Say who Sheila is.
Yeah. So Sheila Hamp Ford is now the owner and primary stakeholder in the Lions. So her parents, one is a Ford and one is a Firestone. So they're billionaires. But I don't know. I get the sense that Sheila's just tired of getting trash talked at the country clubs. And, when they go to owners' meetings, she goes there and they're like, oh, Sheila, 5 and 10. How you doing? 5 and 11. 5 and 12. Like, she's tired. That
doesn't exist.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I just let me go for a second. She's tired of the Lions sucking. She's 70 years old. She's like, okay, I'm all in. I'm going to get a college general manager. I'm going to get a motivator, biting the kneecap off head coach, knowing that this is a 4 or 5 year rebuild. NFL is the league in which rebuilds theoretically happen the quickest. And then we were talking last night, probabilities. Something good has to happen to the Lions. Like, they can't suck forever. I'm 51. I want to see another playoff freaking win. And Sheila's going to get us. So I got my faith in Sheila. Sorry, I'm a little excited. Go ahead.
I don't know how volume was that for you guys. Hopefully it wasn't too loud. I don't trust the owners, right? The owners aren't making sports podcasts out of their basement.
Come on!
Their owners aren't going to the games and cheering on 0-16 teams. So I don't trust the people in suits to make big football decisions. I don't. And I want a guy like a Campbell or their GM now to be making these calls because they know football. Dan Campbell, from everything I've read, football guy, football man, that's the words they use to describe him. Lives and breathes and sleeps football. Make him make some of these calls. I don't want a Ford or Firestone.
And Rod Wood, there's something about him still having involved in decisions. Listen, I agree with you. Suits often cannot be trusted. Stay in your country club. Stay in your luxury booth. Let the football guys make the decisions. And agree that we're going to suck for 3 years. When you go to the owners' meetings and you go to the galas and you're all dressed up and somebody says, oh, how's the rebuild looking? Oh, how did they look this year? Oh, don't say I'm trying for the playoffs. Just don't say it. Say we are going to suck. We're going to draft some young guys and we are hoping to rebuild because Detroit and Windsor deserves a championship. And mark my words, if the Lions were good, Windsor and Detroit would lose their minds. It would be amazing. Like you go to a Boston or a San Francisco or Seattle, man, they are football crazy. And if the Lions win, this entire area will be football crazy.
Yeah, like it's like that for any Detroit team, but the Lions especially.
Yep, I agree.
Right? Like the Pistons, we've seen good. The Tigers, we've seen really, really good and pretty recent.
Yeah.
Same with the Wings.
Red Wings were awesome for 25 years. They won a ton of rings.
The last time the Lions were good was 91.
Yeah, that was a very short window. Last time they were.
That was 1 year.
Yeah,
91.
last time they were good for any stretch. Like 1957, Bobby Lane.
A lot of NFL championships or whatever they were called then.
Oh, boy. I don't even know what you get. You get a mug or something from 1957?
Maybe a ring.
I want a Vince Lombardi trophy. I want rings. And just admit you suck for a couple years, maybe 4, and give me a ring.
So let's talk future. Well, he just calms down a bit. So, like we talked about trading, I'll take a first and a second for Stafford. I don't want to get super late first. Mid-ish first would be nice.
Okay, what if they give you a second and a starter on defense?
See, like, it really depends what starters. I want youth. I want young guys. I want a lot of rookies. I want Micah Parsons, whoever it is in the draft, right?
Yep.
I would rather have a young pick, or a pick that could be turned into a young guy on a rookie deal, than a dude who's 28 or 29 and already playing. So first and a second, I'll take for sure. Let's talk about quarterback. So we're used to Stafford. I've had him my entire football viewing life. Stafford's been, my quarterback in Detroit. So the names that we're going to hear a lot of pretty recently or pretty soon are going to be Fields, Lance, Wilson, maybe Mac Jones.
We know Trevor Lawrence is going number one. That isn't even part of the debate.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of uncertainty where Fields go and how good Zach is. Mac Jones doesn't really seem to have a lot of the measurables, so he's probably late first, early second.
Mac Jones and Kyle Trask are kind of in a similar situation. I think Jones a little bit ahead of Trask, but I don't want to wait until day 2 on draft day to get a quarterback. So we're currently picking, the Lions, are currently picking 7th overall. I either want that to be a quarterback or I want that to be traded up for a quarterback. I want that pick there to be giving us our franchise guy for the next long time, hopefully. So Fields, Lance, Wilson, none of them are surefires. Like, day 1 starter, they're going to be great. Lawrence is the only guy in the draft, or the only quarterback, I should say, that is going to be put into a situation in Jacksonville with Urban Meyer and will likely be as good of a rookie quarterback as you can be in that situation.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Peyton Manning kind of stats. He'll be good.
Peyton
Manning's rookie year.
Okay. All right. I thought you said Lawrence is going to be Peyton Manning.
No.
So, like, those guys, out of the possible quarterbacks that the Lions could get, as Michigan fans, like, Fields is probably your best option, but I don't know, like, is a scrambler going to fit
We saw him last year, and the thing about Fields is he obviously can move and he's got good accuracy, but he focuses on his number one target.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not sure how well his game translates to the NFL, because you often have to go to your third option. And, what happens to a lot of running quarterbacks is if they don't get their first option, then they just kind of panic and then run. And that doesn't play really well unless your name is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, well, Fields was in a college system in Ohio State, and this is partially a compliment to Ohio State and partially a bash on Ohio State. Their offense is built through slants across the middle and crossing patterns.
Receivers that are first-round draft picks that are beasts.
So
offensive linemen that don't let anybody get close to them. When's the last Ohio State quarterback to do anything in the NFL?
Well, the most recent that comes to mind is Dwayne Haskins.
Sucked.
Who to this point has been terrible. He's still young, but he has been awful. Off the field and on the field has been just a moron. So getting a guy like Fields, who is in that exact system in college in Ohio State, with that coaching staff, with those skill positions, with that O-line, I don't know if he's going to translate out of those guys. I think he might not have the most potential, but...
Listen, I think if you've got like a Parsons available at number 7, I think you pick him.
I really do like Micah Parsons.
Yep.
They need to address... So in the draft, they need to address basically every defensive position. So, no, realistically. Linebackers especially, and D-line especially, I think. D-tackle especially.
Yeah, D-tackle, generally, you probably don't want to invest
not super
a top pick on there, like the Lions have done.
To the Lions investing in a cornerback, not quarter, at 3rd overall.
I know.
Is Jeff Okudah just going to be Killian Hayes make a comparison?
Like, Okudah's still, like, he's going to be solid. It's hard to say. Cornerbacks generally develop slowly. But listen, they don't have a lot of guys. So... who's the dude from Penn State that they picked a couple years ago? Okunora? I'm saying
Okamura?
Yeah, so the other cornerback. So they've got a couple of decent young DBs.
Desmond
linebackers.
Trufant's so good.
What's that?
Trufant is so good.
Yeah.
He's older, but he's
linebackers,
Tavai.
Yeah, Giovanni Tavai. Like, when somebody's a second-round draft pick, people better know him. Like, he's the thumper. Great. Well, get the thumper in the 4th round. They need defensive. Their front 7 is far and away the worst in football. They need front 7. They probably need their offensive linemen. If all the receivers, Jones,
they need
Golladay, Danny Amendola, they're all free agents. They got nothing. They got Hawkinson and Cephas for next
You're a
year.
big Cephas guy.
I like Cephas. He had some trouble in college, and so his stock dropped a little bit. You watch, Cephas is going to be pretty good next year. Although it's going to be like Terry Mills on the Pistons 15 years ago. Somebody had to get points. Somebody had to get boards. Cephas is probably going to have stats next year because he's the only guy who's going to be a wide receiver who they can throw to.
So in the draft, you need a quarterback. I think you need a wide receiver. There's a ton of good wide receivers.
Yep.
If you're picking a wide receiver at 7, you can get the guy from LSU, Jamari Chase or something like that.
Jafar Chase?
Something like that. People have him going maybe ahead of Devontae Smith.
Yeah. If Smith is available at 7, how do you let him go? Smith or Parsons? Like
Smith, Parsons at 7 overall. If you don't go quarterback or don't trade up,
it obviously depends on what you trade for
Stafford. Yeah, if you get a second first pick, like if you get 21st overall pick from the Colts or something like that, then maybe you wait a bit for wide receiver, get one there, or you address linebacker there. But there's a lot of needs in the draft that they'll address. And actually last year, I think they drafted quite well for the most part, right? Like other than Okuda at 3rd, I actually really liked their draft. I really, really did. And now they have, I think, even smarter guys drafting for him now than what they had last year, right? Other than Pencil Man, Matt Patricia. So I like their coaching staff. And if you have any more thoughts on Stafford, we'll talk about that. But I'd like to address their coaches now.
No, I think we covered Stafford. Let's talk about all the folks that they brought in, and you did a ton more research than I do. Obviously, the Dan Campbell biting the kneecaps clip is going to carry some steam for a while, and I'm okay with passion. Listen, when you suck, you better have passion. You better try hard, and I think Campbell's going to be that guy. He's almost the exact opposite of Patricia.
That's what I was going to say.
Patricia, smart guy. Who everybody seemed to hate, and just it was terrible. I know the Patriots have him back. He's obviously a guy who can maybe help in a war room because he's smart, but he's not a leader of men. He's just
no way. Yeah, so Campbell, initially when I heard they signed him, I liked it. And then I heard 6 years, which, 6 years is a long time for a first-time head coach. First-time
And what I read this morning was they already knew that Stafford was 6 years, and that Stafford was going to go. And part of discussions with, their head coach and their OC is, you're going to have to work in a new quarterback. So Campbell, smart on him and smart on his agent, negotiated a 6-year deal because they're going to suck for a while.
Yeah, I think the 6-year deal was partially because they're going to suck for a while, and the Lions showing Campbell, you're our guy.
Yep, put some faith, put some dollars behind it.
And, Campbell could have went to a lot of teams, and the Lions' head coaching position was one of the worst ones available. The Chargers probably being the best or one of the best because you already get a stud like Herbert. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the Lions, you have to find your stud like Herbert. So Campbell coming in for 6 years scared me. And then, after the interview, I'm sold on him.
Yeah, talk about the other dudes.
Yeah, so Campbell we like. Anthony Lynn, so Chargers head coach. As soon as he got fired, I thought it was really, really weird and thought the Lions should go after him for a head coach. I actually like him more being an offensive coordinator because from some of my sources, he had some time management issues with the Chargers. Were just calling timeouts, handling the clock late in game. Whereas an OC, that's not going to be his primary focus. So I do like them getting Anthony Lynn a lot. And I thought he was actually going to be head coach somewhere. I thought he was just going to get another head coaching gig at a different team. But
great. Be the Lions offensive coordinator for a couple of years, even though they're probably not going to be great. Show some creativity. I love that the NFL has gotten a lot more creative the last couple of years. Philly Special in the Super Bowl probably 3 years ago was, in my mind, just kind of a general acceptance that, hey, we're going to throw some goofy stuff. We're going to throw some Wildcat like that play New Orleans did. Winston. Jameis Winston. Yeah, Jameis Winston. They did razzle-dazzle, and he threw the 56-yard touchdown or whatever it was. That's fun, and let's have some fun. Right, you're going to suck. Let's have some fun. Defensive, did they sign somebody?
Yeah, so Aaron Glenn, this was the Saints defensive back coach.
Okay.
this one is tougher to judge than Lynn and Campbell. The Saints have good defensive backs. Like I don't know. So I like.
I'm pretty sure I could coach Marcus Lattimore.
Yeah, he had a lot of market value as well. Similar to Campbell and Lynn, he had a lot of options, and he chose Detroit. So
that's kind of encouraging.
That's what I think. So I like Glenn coming in. I really like Lynn coming in, and I love Campbell coming in. Look, they're still gonna suck, but I'd rather have smart dudes making decisions that will help us in a few years, rather than keeping Stafford and letting him die in Detroit for 5 more years or whatever it would be.
Yeah, sum things up.
Yeah, wrap it up.
So again, to sum things up, we wish Matt Stafford really well. Thank you for all that you did. You, your wife, your family were a great big part of the community. Kelly Stafford actually is a pretty good Instagram follow. She had some health issues a couple years ago, but she's kicking butt. Win, win, win. Win for the Lions, win for Stafford, and win for whoever gets them. Take good care of them because you got a good one. That's it. Truth, Tal Isaac's out.